Vallejo Police Detective Ed Rust is on patrol near Blue Rock Springs.
Right around midnight, the call came over the radio, possible shots fired out in the Blue Rock Springs area.
Rust speeds to the Lover's Lane that lies just minutes from Lake Herman Road. As he arrives, he sees a body on the ground.
We immediately saw this guy's all bloody, and he'd been shot somewhere in the face or neck area, and just blood all over him and everything. He's moaning. And
inside the car, Rust finds a young woman slumped over the steering wheel and shot multiple times in the back. The attack is less than an hour old when police take a call from a man claiming to be the Rock Springs shooter.
He said something, in fact, that there's been 2 persons shot out at the park, and he said something to the effect that I also shot those 2 kids last year. And then he said, kind of tauntingly, goodbye.
The call is traced to a payphone just blocks from the police department. The receiver hangs off the hook, but no usable prints are lifted. In the editorial room of the San Francisco Chronicle, a curious state of affairs is developing. The board of editors is on the receiving end of a letter from a man claiming to be the Vallejo killer and offering intimate details of the crimes as proof. The missive is double-posted, marked "Please rush to editor," and signed with a crossed circle, a mark that would later become known as the Zodiac symbol. In 1969, Robert Graysmith is editorial cartoonist for the paper.
We start getting these very bizarre letters, and they're codes and threats. And the guy's saying, you print this code in your paper, and he sent one to each of the major papers, or I'm going on a killing rampage. Well, that's just simply, we'd never seen anything like this.
The codes contained in the letters are 8 lines long, each containing 17 symbols. The killer claims that if decoded, these ciphers will reveal his identity.
And no one could break these ciphers. The NSA, the FBI, nobody could break them. But a high school teacher in Salinas, California, sat down with his wife over the weekend, and they just simply did not let up, and they found the motive for the killer's crimes.
Working at their kitchen table, Donald and Betty Harden unlock the key to the code. It reveals not the killer's name, but his motive for killing.
What Harden came up with, and just off the top of my head, it's I like killing, because killing people is the most dangerous game in the world.
The newspaper ciphers are the first moves in the most dangerous game of serial murder, played by a man who would soon be known to the world as the Zodiac. On September 27, 1969, Cecilia Shepard and Brian Hartnell are attacked as they picnic on the shores of Lake Berryessa. Their assailant wields a knife and wears an executioner's hood with the Zodiac symbol on his chest. Cecilia dies from multiple stab wounds. Brian lives, but never sees the Zodiac's face. On that same day, 36-year-old Arthur Lee Allen tells family members he is going scuba diving in Lake Berryessa. He returns that evening covered in blood with a knife on the front seat of his car. A tip is phoned in to police. Take a look at Arthur Lee Allen as the Zodiac. A friend named Don Cheney claims Allen called himself the Zodiac before the term had ever been made public by the killer.
And he had told Cheney that he was going to hunt people with a gun with a flashlight tied to it so he could shoot them. And he's told Cheney, he says, you know, I think I'll call myself the Zodiac.
With Cheney's information in hand, investigators question Allen about the killings.
First words out of his mouth, the most dangerous game. And they say, my God, what's that? It's my favorite book. I've loved it since the 10th grade. And this was about a guy named Count Zarhoff, very similar name to Zodiac, who dressed like Zodiac, all in black, who hunted couples through the woods, carried a gun, carried a knife, carried a bow and arrow.
In the role of serial killer, Arthur Lee Allen is right out of central casting. A white male, early 30s, a loner with an IQ near genius level and a love for guns. With no print match, however, and no other forensic evidence, the investigation loses steam. The Zodiac killings stop, and the cases go cold. In the summer of 1992, George Bauert is hard at work trying to make a case for Arthur Allen as the Zodiac killer when he gets a call.
I get a call at my home right here from a cop named Terry Barron and said, "Hey, George, you still looking at Arthur Lee Allen as the Zodiac?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "Well, I'm in his living room." And I said, "What are you doing there?" He says, "He's on the floor dead."
Allen is dead from a heart attack. Before his body is committed to the ground, Bauert orders an autopsy.
I insisted on a autopsy so we could have tissue till we could get DNA.
Bauert is not sure what DNA can do for him, but he wants to be prepared. Samples of Allen's brain are frozen and stored for future testing, in case someday cold case detectives ever run down a sample of the Zodiac's DNA. Carol Kelly is a homicide detective with the San Francisco Police Department. Like everyone else in the department, Carol is familiar with the legend of the Zodiac. Carol pulls the case files and quickly realizes his best hope for success lies with forensics.
The idea that a criminal would be aware of fingerprints and things like that and take efforts to hide or conceal or mask them is reasonable. But the idea that they would be aware of DNA and try to hide that is not reasonable.
Carol believes the Zodiac most likely took no precautions against DNA transfer. Before a letter can be analyzed, however, a threshold determination must be made. Which of the 20 so-called Zodiac letters can be considered authentic and thus worth testing? Susan Morton is a forensic document examiner with the San Francisco Police Department.
When you write, you rest the heel of your palm, a very characteristic part of it, on the paper. And people in those days weren't really aware that you could leave a palm print and that it could be identified. They knew about fingerprints, but the public really wasn't that aware of palm prints.
Zodiac's letters are tested for palm prints. One is discovered in his final authenticated letter.
They were able to obtain palm prints from Arthur Lee Allen. It was compared to the one that had been developed earlier, and they don't match. That is not Arthur Allen's palm print.
No print match, no DNA match, and no handwriting link to Arthur Lee Allen. The tools of modern forensic science appear to clear Allen as a major suspect in the Zodiac case, frustrating cold case detectives and adding yet another layer of intrigue to a case and a killer that for millions has now become an obsession.
In truth, every detective, I think, would like to have their Dr. Moriarty. And in the case of Zodiac, you have the worthy adversary.
Carol believes there are two likely endgames for the Zodiac. He is either dead or in prison. Either way, the job of IDing the killer and, if possible, holding him accountable for his crimes is an important one for the simplest of reasons. 5 families for whom the Zodiac is neither legend, nor movie star, nor cult figure, but a real-life killer, a man who took the life of a brother or sister, daughter, son, or friend.
What he did was spectacular and horrible. And again, talking with the families, you are reminded constantly of the lifelong devastating effect that these crimes have on people, the people that survive.